Hello there and welcome to another Classic Golf Clubs video. Today I'm featuring one of the greatest and most charismatic players ever to grace the sport, Seve Ballesteros, or the Spanish pronunciation, Ballesteros. I don't have time to fully explore the life and career of Seve, and there's a huge amount of information already out there. So after we've had a look at today's vintage set, I'm going to focus on irons with Seve's name on them. Right, let's have a look at the clubs that I'll be using later in the video. Beginning with the woods then. These are looking pretty ominous in their black and silver appearance. Let's have a look at them in a bit more detail though, so we can see exactly what we're looking at. As soon as I turn it round, it's that one of my favourite red insert black head style of club. We can see Seve Ballesteros' signature there in gold across the crown. Look on the sole, get that the right way up, be better. Slazenger, made in England, and the number on this one, the number 5. Aluminium sole plate, which is unusual, they're normally brass, so how the weight is made on this club I'm not sure. It could be that there's a piece of lead under the insert to bring it up to the desired swing weight. Laminated head. It's a shame there's no screws on there, that would be the finishing touch, but still a nice looking club for what is essentially a starter set of clubs. I'm not sure exactly what year these came out, but they're not one of the top line Slazenger Seve Ballesteros sets by any means. Just have a quick look at the other clubs in the set there. We've got the 3 wood and we've got the 1 wood, the driver. Same style on all of them. The Seve signature in gold on the top. The driver's been used more than the others. The 5 wood looks as though it's barely been touched at all. If we look at the shaft, what have we got here? We've got a True Temper Comet shaft. I'll get that into focus. There we go. True Temper Comet, and it's a regular flex. I'll bring up a bit of information about the True Temper. I can't remember it off the top of my head, so we'll have a little interlude here. Now we'll rejoin the video. The grip, very good condition grip, and it is an Avon. Exactly what model of Avon I don't know, but in very good condition. So there we are, that's the woods. Let's not spend too long. I said I'm trying to make this a short video. Moving on to the irons then. Very similar style, simple style to the woods. It's a flange sole blade. Seve's signature picked out in gold there. Slazenger on the bottom and the club number. As with the woods, this is a very good condition set. We've got the same grips, the same True Temper Comet shaft in regular flex. Nice simple ferrule, black with 2 gold bands. Looking at the profile of the club, you can see, as I say, it's a flanged blade with a good flange on the bottom there. So this is going to be, as far as blades go, it will be an easier club to use. And also, it's got quite a bit of offset on the head, if I can line this up correctly. There we go, that's pretty close. So looking down, we can see there's quite a bit of offset on the face, on the leading edge. So it's behind the shaft, if you like. And again, that's something that tends to be on sort of starter sets for new golfers, improving golfers. It's supposed to give the blade a little bit more time to catch up and reduce the tendency for a sliced shot. It's something that when I change sets, it's one of the hardest things I find to get used to. Adapting to everything else about a club is very easy, but when I get a set that's got quite a bit of offset on it, it's just something that my eye doesn't take to straight away. So how I'll get on with these, we'll see when I take them out on the course. So that's the 3-iron studded. Also on the table here we've got 4, 8 pitching wedge and sand iron. Do have the whole set, 3 to sand wedge, 9 clubs. The pitching wedge and the sand iron, same sort of style as the rest of the clubs, and as is normal, the soles on the clubs get wider as we go through the set. Nice amount of bounce on the sand iron. The lofts on these are probably a club stronger than my preferred optimum. The sand wedge is about normal, about 55 degrees I think I measured the sand wedge at. We'll see the lofts later on. A bit of a nick on the sole there. Whether these are cast or forged heads, I don't know. They've been well polished after the initial process, but whether that was after forging or after casting, I don't know. There we go, that's the irons. Nice set. As I say, this would have been a starter set. We'll look at some of the other irons in the Slazenger range with Seve's name on them, and also perhaps if we've got time we'll look at a few other clubs that Seve put his name to from other manufacturers. Right, that's the irons. Now let's move on to the putter. Here's today's putter. If you watched the previous video where I had a Dunlop Blue Flash, you'll see that it's very similar to that one. It's not a Dunlop Blue Flash though, there's no ferrule on this one, and the heel portion is slightly longer. It is by another, shall we say, budget manufacturer though, and that is Bronte. There we go, Bronte BW6. So it's a straightforward blade type putter with a heel, so it's similar weight and action to a Golden Goose style putter. Nice putter, I enjoy using this one. The shaft is an Apollo shaft, so that'll be made in England, and the grip is a pistol style grip with a Pro grip stamp on there. This is in good condition, so nice putter. There we go. Hopefully I've kept the review of the clubs to a more reasonable length this time. Okay, that's the clubs I'll be playing, but what about other clubs that Seve had his name on? I don't know which was the first brand that produced clubs with his name on them. Penfold signed him up in 1975, but more on that later. The earliest clubs I've been able to find are by Slazenger. Slazenger signed an, at the time, very lucrative deal with Slazenger not long after his 1979 Open win. This report in Golf World magazine's March 1980 edition quotes a 5-year deal worth over £250,000. Nick's advert, featured in the July 1980 Golf World edition, mentions the clubs he used for his Masters win in 1980, although the clubs in this picture look to be the B51 model. The first clubs I can find with his name on are these, which I call the SB01. There are several variations on the design, as we see here. The SB02, the Supremo, and the TPM Supremo. Why this doesn't mention Seve is a mystery, as well as a few others by other manufacturers to follow. This model was a slightly cheaper option, and the Seve 276 here came out after his winning 1984 Open score of 276. The set I played was probably the most basic of all the offerings. I'm not sure what year it came out. In the late 1980s, Seve and Slazenger must have extended their partnership from the original 5 years, because the XTC shown here came out around that time, complete with a beryllium copper option as shown. From around the same date is the Challenge SB Eurostar, another lower cost offering. That's all the retail Slazenger models I've been able to find. So now let's take a look at Dunlop models. Dunlop Slazenger were of course one company. The first is another variation on the Slazenger SB01, clearly a favourite design of Seve's, and then an almost identical model produced in a limited run of 1,000 sets for the Japanese and US markets. Then the Seve Ballesteros Gold, a cavity back of uncertain vintage, and finally the SB, perhaps produced for the American market. Interestingly, it has a short bore-through hosel. Next we have Sounder, an American company who seem to have some sort of relationship with Slazenger, as we'll see later. This is their tour model SB4, that same design again. The only other irons I've been able to find are by Mizuno, who Seve signed with around the year 2000. He would play Mizuno Pro 2 irons and their new forged driver. The two models I found are these semi-cavity backs and these, which again echo Seve's favourite SB01 design. Seve also partnered with MD Golf, producing many different designs, but I consider these a bit too modern for the Classic Golf Clubs channel. What though of the clubs Seve actually played? Seve was very much his own man in most things, and club selection was no different. Seve's very first professional event in the UK was the 1975 Penfold PGA Championship. He signed with Penfold that same year and is seen here on the range at Royal St George's during the Penfold PGA of 1976, but I don't recognise any of the clubs in the bag as being by Penfold. In fact, I don't recognise them at all. Seve finished the tournament tied 24th. And yet, in the 1976 Open at Birkdale, his caddy is carrying a Dunlop bag. Again, it's impossible to be sure of any of the clubs, but the one he's pulling from the bag looks as though it might be a Ryder 17-4 heel-toe model, first produced in 1973. It has a load of lead tape on it, as is often the case with Seve's clubs. Here from 1978, his caddy is carrying a Ram bag, but I've not found any Ram Seve clubs. But this one could have been used by him, as it's stamped SB. In the 1979 Open, his caddy was again carrying a Ram bag. What clubs were in it, though, I've not been able to find out. As we've seen, Seve signed with Slazenger around January 1980, and we start to see evidence of clubs he actually used. First up are these, one of his favourite designs again. Only the one iron is stamped Slazenger on the sole, but we have to assume that the others are by Slazenger too. Notice the plentiful use of lead tape again. Then we have this intriguing set, which are stamped Sounder on the back, and yet Slazenger on the soles. As I mentioned earlier, was there some tie-up between Sounder and Slazenger? Did Seve play Slazenger in Europe and Sounder in America? Anyway, that's about all I've got on the irons that Seve used. I'm not going to look at the woods. I do know that he was a big fan of Tony Penner woods, and he used one for his famous shot from the bunker in the 1983 Ryder Cup. I've already talked for far too long on the irons, so let's have a look at the clubs on the course now. Before we do that though, here are the lofts for the irons, fairly typical for the time, with a 48-degree pitching wedge. I'm not sure of a date on the Bronte putter, but I would say sometime late 1970s, early 1980s. Okay, let's see how the clubs perform in the hands of a mid-handicapper. My intention was to start on the first hole, but I soon caught up with a very slow 4-ball, who luckily waved me through, so it's not until the third hole that I start. It's also a very windy day, so I've had to turn the sound down for nearly all the video recordings. Here we go then. I'm hitting the driver or one wood. A bit of a low push into the first right bunker, which I've not been in for a while. And unfortunately we had quite a bit of rain recently, so my ball was in a pool of water and I took a drop. Very wet lie, and all I could do was chop it out straight into the next bunker, and again in a patch of water. Fish the ball out, have a couple of goes at dropping it, and this time I do get the ball out a reasonable distance, which left me about 165 yards, and I hit a 5-iron. Decent strike this time. And it left me on the fringe at the front. I took the putter, which on reflection was a mistake, although who knows what I'd have done if I tried to chip it. Next attempt is very close, but just to the right. and it's a simple tap in for a double bogey 7. On to the next hole, playing into the wind now and try and hit it too hard, with the result that it's a complete top that goes about 100 yards. Rather than accepting that a couple of easy irons will get me to the green, I'll try and make up as much ground as I can with the 3-wood and top it again with a horrible looking swing. I'm now in the rough playing 3 with my 4-iron this time. Better strike, but just pull it a little bit to the left and onto the bank in the rough. 112 to middle, 95 to front, into the wind wedge. Quick summary there. Not a nice looking shot, but the result was pretty good. So that gave me an opportunity for a bogey after a pretty poor few shots playing up the hole. But I soon knew it was missing on the left. So that's another double bogey. Last hole, and I'm hitting my 3-wood. Good strike, about 190, 200 yards, somewhere around there, which left me about 150, and I'm hitting 6-iron. And this was a complete pull, and it came up short on the bank on the left. I tried to get the flag and myself in shot here, but obviously I failed completely. The chip wasn't bad, but it was about a yard short and just got caught up in the fringe, so it didn't run out as far as I'd intended. But it left me this for a par. Raced it by a little bit. But there we go, knocked it in for a bogey. A summary of the 3 holes then. I'd hoped for a better playing tribute to the Maestro, but we can only do what we can do on the day. I had 2 double bogeys and a bogey for a 5 over par total. 2 fairways hit, but only because I topped one of the drives in a straight line. No greens in regulation and 6 putts. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this small reflection on a true golfing great who sadly was taken from us far too soon.